This is one of those moments when you realize that we are living in two different time zones, the CFL clock time zone and the rest of campus time zone, which are just like this much off. So as people continue to kind of come and gather, feel free to join us up here, grab a red hymnal if you haven't done that yet. Welcome, welcome. You're not late. I was just saying that the CFL time zone and the rest of campus time zone is like 90 seconds off. So it's still actually just 10:29. You're cool. You're good. That's okay though, because it'll again give us plenty of time to kind of get in, and I can get through my announcements and make sure we have plenty of time for the truly important gifts being shared today. So welcome, welcome. Know that you are always welcome here in person, online, whoever you are, whoever you know yourself to be, whoever you are becoming. A handful of announcements. We are in the last week of classes. That means that today is our second to last chapel of the year. This Friday in chapel, we will be doing a special blessing and sending for any students who are serving as camp counselors this summer or doing service learning opportunities. We'll also be blessing our seniors who are going on to service learning years or seminary divinity school. So spread the word around. If you know folks in those categories, encourage them to come on Friday, and we will do a blessing for those groups. Also, if you are someone that you know is serving as a camp counselor this summer, we would like to know that, and you want us to know that, because if we know that, then we can send you a care package this summer. So anybody who is serving as a camp counselor or something like it this summer, give your info to our office, ministry@luther.edu, and we'll make sure to get you on our list and get your info. We promise we send good care packages. Just a couple other kind of volunteer needs as we close out the end of the semester. We're still looking for volunteers with sustainability for move-out drives in the dorms, opportunities there. There are opportunities for if you still have dining dollars left, and if you're looking for a good thing to do with those, we're encouraging folks to consider purchasing items at Nordic Mart and donating them to the Little Free Pantry. We are already rounding up volunteers for Welcome Week all the way at the beginning of next semester, and there are some college ministries work study positions open if you're looking, most notably our church music fellow position. So we're looking for 1 or 2 students next year to serve in that role as a work study student in our office, helping with worship planning, chapel coordination, music leadership. So any of those things are interesting to you, come find us and we can get you more info. We are in the last 2 days of our spring chapel theme, which has been seeking, asking honest questions. Today, we are pleased to welcome as our speaker Anna Peterson, professor in the history department, and we are also thrilled to welcome so many lovely brass players contributing gifts today. And so we are just so grateful for all of you and what you are offering in this space. As we begin now, I invite you to stand as you are comfortable and able as we get grounded and centered for our time together. And I invite you, whether you are standing or sitting, to take note of the ground beneath your feet as it supports you. I invite you to shake out your arms and your hands, to let your shoulder blades relax down and back, maybe roll your neck. Take a few deep breaths, and as you exhale, you're invited to release whatever it is you have carried into this space today. We gather here together, the seekers, the dreamers, the wishers, in hopes of seeing God. We gather together, the curious, the hungry, the loving, the lonely, in hopes of finding peace. We gather together those who are lacking and those with plenty to spare, in hopes of knowing justice. We gather together the broken, the beautiful, the queer, the questioning, in hopes of being seen, being known, being loved without question. Here, may you find what you are looking for. Our opening hymn today in your red hymnal is number 247, Come Now, O Prince of Peace, number 247.
As some of you may know, I spent the month of January co-leading a course abroad with Professor Gary and Kopf. We taught a course for 25 students on Japanese Buddhism. Starting in the north, Sendai, we made our way south through Japan to Nagasaki, stopping at stunning temples along the way. There were places on our journey that felt very thin to me, times and places where the veil between the physical world and the spirit world are permeable. It was breathtaking. I also deepened my knowledge of Zen and Zen teachings throughout the trip. I had the pleasure of hearing Professor Ishii at Komazawa University in Tokyo speak on the history and practice of Soto Zen Buddhism. As someone who is relatively new to practicing Zen Buddhism, and as someone who has always had more of a personal connection to it than an academic one, I found his lecture fascinating. Professor Ishii went over the history of Zen, including foundational figures such as Bodhidharma, whose dedication to his practice led to his infamous 9 years of wall sitting, and as legend has it, even cutting off his eyelids to stay awake during his practice. Ishii also introduced me to some of Dogen's teachings from the Tenzo Kyokun, or instructions for the Tenzo, or temple cook. Those teachings have stayed with me, and it is those teachings and the ways in which they've informed my thinking that I want to share with you today. Dogen writes in the Tenzo Kyokun, "When I was staying at the monastery, a monk named Lu held the post of Tenzo, or cook. Once following the noon meal, I was walking along the eastern covered walkway towards a sub-temple when I came upon him in front of the Buddha hall, drying mushrooms in the sun. He had a bamboo stick in his hand and no hat covering his head. The heat of the sun was blazing on the paving stones. It looked very painful. His back was bent like a bow, and his eyebrows were as white as the feathers of a crane. I went up to the Tenzo and asked, 'How long have you been a monk?' 68 years, he said. 'Why don't you have an assistant do this for you?' 'Other people are not me.' Venerable sir, I can see how you follow the way through your work, but still, why do this now, when the sun is so hot? If not now, when? There was nothing else to say. The Tenzo's responses are crucial here. Other people are not me, and if not now, when? I want to give you just a few seconds to think about these two statements, to let them sink in to your body. Other people are not me, and if not now, when? These are central teachings in Zen Buddhism, and I want to explore the other people are not me a bit further. When the Tenzo replies that other people are not him, he is saying that the work of drying the mushrooms is his. Other people cannot do it for him. In other words, his practice is his alone, and others cannot do it for him. Nobody can take his place. In this, Dogen encourages people to simply do their practice without comparisons or being caught by ideas, just seeing what is around them, just doing what is needed. The story begs the question, if I don't do what I need to do, who will? This story of this Tenzo stayed with me after we left Komazawa University and went on to a monastic stay at Hokyoji, the second head temple of the Soto school of Zen Buddhism in Japan, after Eiheiji, which Dogen founded. Hokyoji is nestled, or at that time was nestled, in the snow-laden mountains outside Ono, and had been founded by Jakuin, a Chinese Zen monk who trained in Zen with Dogen. Upon arriving at Hokyoji, our 25 students and Professor Kopf and I were quickly introduced to the practice of oryoki, a meditative form of eating, using a nested set of bowls and other eating utensils that emphasizes mindfulness, awareness, practice, by abiding to a strict order of precise movements. You unpack your bowls and utensils in a particular manner, unnesting the bowls, placing them in a special order. You ask for your food in a particular way, eat it with care and in concert with those around you, all in silence. As you conclude the eating portion of the meal, you clean your bowls at your place, carefully with hot tea and water, scraping the sides of your bowl with your satsu utensil, drinking the water that you cleaned the bowls with. This practice of eating is not just about ceremony and etiquette. It reflects the belief that all living things are precious, and through the act of eating, we have taken life in order to sustain our own lives. We must respect this and savor every last crumb, including those floating around the dishwater we created with the hot water and satsu. To say the students struggled with eating meals at Hokyoji is to put it mildly. They not only had difficulty with the ceremony and ritual of oryoki, they disliked drinking their own dishwater, and many had aversions to the food itself. Most meals consisted of plain white rice, pickled vegetables, not only to eat, but to also help with cleaning the bowls, miso soup, and various tofu dishes. The tofu perhaps proved the most unappetizing to our students, and the pressure to participate, to show respect for our hosts and the religious traditions they represented, weighed heavily on the students. Remember, in oryoki, every last crumb must be eaten. Some students could not stomach a bite. The first night, I sat across from one of these students. They'd previously self-declared their aversion to vegetables and vegetable products. At a vegan monastery, this posed a real challenge. They sat with the food, attempting to overcome their aversions with physical revulsion and tears running down their cheeks. Meanwhile, the person next to me struggled to remember the order to put the bowls back into their places, which corner of the furoshiki, or linen wrapping, to fold first, and which direction to place the chopsticks. I wanted to reach out to break the rule of silence during eating and help my neighbors with their practice. But the Tenzo's words in Dogen's story came back to me. Others are not me, and also I am not others. Others' practice is not my practice. As an empath, someone who takes on the feelings of others perhaps a bit too readily, I found it a real struggle to let the others find their own way in their own practice of oryoki. But I did. I kept the silence. I focused on what was right in front of me, and I left others to their practice. The Tenzo's words continue to stay with me. As a wife, a mother, a teacher, it's tempting to take on others' work for them, to interrupt and take on their practice as my own, all in the name of helping. But the Tenzo reminds me that others are not me. I am not others. But it can't be so simple, right? I've tried to reconcile this teaching with the emphasis I know Buddhism places on compassion. How can we leave others to struggle in their practice while focusing on our own practice? How is this compassion? Carl Bielefeld writes about the 4 ways of the Bodhisattva Dogen writes about in the Shobogenzo, and I want to outline the 4 components he mentions in regard to the ways of the Bodhisattva for you. The first way is that of generosity, which Dogen interpreted broadly to include having a position in society and to act on behalf of society. The second is kind speech. Thirdly is beneficial action, which means that in our concerns and activities, we take care of every kind of person, no matter whether of high or low position. Lastly, there is compassion and empathy, not to differentiate self from others. When we know this, we are at one with ourselves and others. So how do we reconcile this with the idea that others are not me? Also in the Shobogenzo, Dogen explores the idea that self and other both share a commonality and possess a uniqueness at the same time. We're all pursuing the way, but through different expressions of it. We all have Buddha nature and are struggling to find the proper way to express the true Buddha Dharma. We can have empathy for one another while we each pursue the way, and we can recognize that we are interconnected in our pursuit of the way through our practice, while still recognizing that we each must practice our own practice. Others are not me. Thank you.
Now, as we leave this place today, may God bless us with courage, with curiosity, and with open hearts, that we may always seek kindness and mercy in all things, in the name of our loving God, who is always seeking us. Go in peace, seek and be found. Thanks be to God.